Hi guys, I'm Rebecca and welcome to my workshop series. So these are a series of classes that are chosen by you where we workshop specific poses. In today's class, we're going to be looking at splits and backbends. So we're going to get into the legs a lot and we'll explore some different shapes that incorporate backbends and splits. So things that you're going to need for today's class, a couple of blocks, a bit of wall space. I'm just using this ledge over here. Some socks to slide in. If you have carpet, don't worry, you can always modify. And also maybe a cushion to put underneath your knees. So it's quite a prop heavy day today. And when you're ready, we're going to get started with some dynamic movement. But first we'll just do a little bit of a body check-in. So just taking your hands together in prayer, just coming to stand in a nice neutral position. Just take a moment to check into the space. So scanning your body from head to toe. Just making a commitment to stay present for the next 75 minutes. So anything else that's going on in your life, any to-do lists, any outside noise, any worries or expectations, just make a commitment to let them go. And know that this is your choice. And we'll just set an intention for the practice to just stay present, to stay grounded, to have fun with it and to try your best. And know that when we practice something again and again, it gets a little bit easier and we get a little bit closer to our goals. But really try and enjoy the process rather than fixating on the end result. Thank you so much for joining me today, guys. Lots of love and namaste. So we're going to get started with a little bit more of a dynamic movement. So you want to step your feet slightly wider than the legs length apart and turn the toes out to the side. And we'll get started with some goddess squats. So squatting down at the bottom, lifting up at the top. And let's go for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hitting myself, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. 10 more. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We'll hold at the bottom and pulse up and down for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Awesome. We're then going to add ankle lifts into this. I'm just giving my hips a little bit of a shake out. So squatting down, we'll go right heel up, right heel down, left heel down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Awesome. And bring it back up. Again, just giving your hips a little bit of a wiggle out to release. I'm now going to turn this into goddess kicks. So I'm going to do 10 on each leg. So first I'm going to be lifting my right leg. My left leg stays grounded. And when you're ready, let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, one more, and 10. We'll then do this on the other side. So again, right leg stays grounded, slightly turned out to the side. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Bringing it back, shake it all out. So let's just do some little hip circles here. So circling the hips all the way over to the right. Feels really good. And circling the hips all the way over to the left. Okay, so for the next movement, I'm going to start in a kind of a warrior one lunging position. So right leg forward, left leg back. From here, lift up my chest, lift up my left leg, kind of in a warrior three with the chest lifted, point through the toes, lock the knee, and then I step back down into a lunge. So we're going to do 9 more of these, and then we'll pulse that left leg. So left leg lifts, and lower down, 2, and lift, chest stays lifted, and lower, 3, lifting up, and lower, 4, and lift, and lower, 5, lift up, and lower, 6, just 4 more, lift, lower, 7, lift up, lower, 8, 2 more times, 9, this time I'm going to pulse it for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, release, step back, and let's swap sides. So this time my left leg's forward, my right leg's backwards. Again, when I come into that warrior three position, my chest is lifted and I'm trying to extend up. So when you're ready, let's go. 1, locking out the right knee. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, last one on pulse for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Awesome. And step it back. For the next exercise, we're going to move through some rotations of the hips. So I'm going to start off with my right leg forward, left leg backwards in a high lunge position. I then want to quarter turn to my right, coming into a Skandasana. From this position, I dip my bum down, I lift my bum up, and then I'm pressing into a warrior two. I then lower myself down, quarter turn to the front of my mat, staying on the top of the foot if I can, and then I'm quarter turning to the right side, pointing all 10 toes to the right and dipping down into a horizon lunge. I then bring myself back through my high lunge, and I'm going to rotate through a goddess and come into a high lunge on the other side. So again, I'm in a high lunge position. I then lower myself down over to the left, coming into a Skandasana. My bum drops down, I lift my bum up, and I'm pressing up into a warrior two position. Coming back down through a Skandasana, I quarter turn to the front. Again, I'm trying to stay on the top of my foot. My hips stay low as I quarter turn over to the left and dip down, horizon lunge. I'm then coming all the way back up through a high lunge, turning back through a goddess, and then I'm coming into a high lunge on the other side. We'll do 2 more of these on each side. So high lunge, quarter turn, into Skandasana, dip the hips down, lift yourself up without using the arms. See if you can press up through a warrior two. Lower yourself down, keep the hips low as you quarter turn to the front, the top of my back flat's down, and then quarter turn to the right, dip the hips, horizon lunge. I'm then coming back up through a high lunge, into a goddess, and turning into a high lunge on the other side. So again, lower down Skandasana, bum lowers towards the ground, lift up, pressing into a warrior two, lower yourself down. Then from this position, hips stay low as I quarter turn to the front of the mat, quarter turn to the left and dip my hips down, Skandasana. Coming back through the center, coming into a high lunge, turning through a goddess pose, high lunge on the other side. Okay, 1 more of these to go. So high lunge, Skandasana, bum down. Skandasana, lift up, warrior two. Again, lower, quarter turn to the front, low lunge, quarter turn to the side, horizon lunge. Nice. Back through the center, last side, high lunge, turning into a goddess, high lunge. Again, drop yourself down into a Skandasana, bum comes on the floor, lift yourself up through a warrior two, back into a Skandasana, quarter turn to the front. From here, dip the hips, horizon lunge. Bring yourself back to the center and lift up into your high lunge position. Then when you're ready, we'll take it down to seated. So now we're just going to get into the ankles a little bit. So taking your hands behind you, different choices here. You can either lift up onto the top of one foot, stretching out the front of the shin, or if it feels okay, you can lift on to the tops of both feet. And we're just going to hold this for about 15 seconds. We'll then come down. If you're doing one foot at a time, then change on to the other foot. Or if you're doing both of the feet, guess what? You get to do it twice, which is super exciting. So then I'm just going to lower down, just shake it out a little bit. If you're doing the other foot, tuck the other foot under. Or again, if you're doing both feet, just come onto the tops of both feet. We're then holding it. So again, just stretching out the top of the feet, strengthening the feet, holding it here, try to smile through it. We kind of flex our feet a lot in yoga, so I think pointing is really good as well, strengthening up the ankles. So just holding it here for about another 5 seconds. And then lower yourself back down. Okay, so now I'm going to come to sit into a butterfly position. So I'm taking the soles of my feet together. I'm going to work dynamically, so I'm just rocking my knees up and down like they're butterfly wings, and I'm flying off to some really nice, really beautiful, exotic location, which I wish I was. We're then going to squeeze the thighs shut against the elbows, like you're closing a book. So create resistance, hold for a moment. Breathe out, and then focus on externally rotating the thighs. So you're pushing the thighs down, but trying to roll them out slightly at the same time, and keep the feet active. So 2 more times like this, just squeezing your knees against your elbows, creating resistance, shutting up your butt. Breathe out, relax, and start to draw the knees down towards the ground. We'll just do it 1 more time. So again, closing up the pages of your butt, making yourself teeny tiny. Then breathe out and draw your knees a little bit closer to the ground. Awesome. Okay, from here we're going to come into a pike position. So we'll start with the feet flexed, and if you can reach for the tops of the feet from here, reach for the tops of the feet. If you can't, you can use a strap to help you. So from this position, I'm going to pull my toes back towards me and flex my feet so much that my heels lift off the ground. And then I'm going to point my toes, trying to keep the back of the knees on the floor, and visualize that I'm dipping my toes down into water. So we'll just do this 1 more time. So flexing the feet so much that the heels lift off the ground. So you're stretching out your calves, and then pointing the toes. Again, visualize that you're dipping them down into water. 1 more time. So flexing the feet, lifting your heels off the ground, and then pointing the toes, and visualize you dipping them into water. We'll then come up, shake out the feet, and then we're going to come and sit in a straddle position. So finding your straddle, it doesn't have to be super wide to begin with. Again, we'll just work into the feet. So point the right foot, flex the left foot. And we're going to go for 10 of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, from this position, we're going to start looking at the action of rocking forward and rocking back. And when we come more into our pull-throughs later on, this is the action you're using. So lifting up, rocking forward, and rocking back. And this doesn't have to be a huge movement to begin with. Sometimes when I'm doing this, I like to turn my hands around. So I can kind of roll over the back of my hands and use my wrists just to catch me a little bit. So we'll just go for 10 of these, 10, and we'll make this movement bigger later. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, we're going to continue to play with rotations. So from your straddle position, you're going to think of internally rotating your right thigh, turning slightly to the left, back to center, and then internally rotating your left thigh and turning back to center. So we'll just go for 10, 9, and again, we're going to make these bigger later, 8, 7, but we're just starting to explore, 6, that rotation, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, adding on from this, bend your left knee, and then from this position, quarter turn over to the side and bring it up through a very narrow pigeon. So the heel's going to be super close to your bum when you're doing this. We'll then turn back into a Januasana position and straighten out the left leg. We're then moving to do this to the right. So the right foot turns in. You're trying to roll over the top of the foot. And again, you'd be turning it into a very narrow pigeon, rolling the hip back out and straightening the legs. Let's do 2 more of these on each side. So my left knee bends in. I'm quarter turning to my left, rolling over the top of the foot. If you can make it active, lift up and lower down. I'm then quarter turning to the right, opening back into a straddle. So again, my right knee bends, quarter turning to the back of the mat, rolling over the top of my back foot, back into the center, back out into a straddle. One more time. So bending the left knee, rolling over to the left, very narrow pigeon, back to center, open back into a straddle. One more time, right knee bends, quarter turning into my pigeon. Again, try to lift up a little bit, be active, and come back to the center. So now we're going to come away from the legs a little bit and just start to warm up into the back. So start off in a tabletop position. We'll just start to move through some cat-cows. So arching the spine, lifting your chest up, rounding the spine and pressing away. Just doing this a few times. Just checking in with your back and how it feels today. Maybe you've moved already and it might feel okay to start to turn these into circles. If not, just sticking with your cat-cow. But I'm just going to start to draw circles to the right when I'm doing this. Maybe about 3 times. And then draw circles to the left a few times. Again, just checking in. Then bringing it back to center. If this feels okay, we can start to turn these circles into a cobra. So I'd start to dip my hips down, finding a cobra position in between. So again, I'm just going to do about 3 of these to the right, and then changing directions, doing about 3 of these to the left, just checking in with how my back feels today. I'm then going to come to sit back towards my heels. I'm then going to turn these into some big waves. So think of articulating first your lower back, middle back, upper back, coming through a cat position. Dip the hips down, slide the hands back towards you, bringing yourself into a cobra. Press through the tops of your feet, keep them active, and then pull yourself all the way down to the mat. Look up with your head first. Think of lifting yourself up. Again, press down through the feet, drag the hands back, chin to chest, round through the spine, and push back child's pose. So I'm just going to move through a few of these. And again, things to think about, as always in Cobra, you want your pubic bone to be on the ground. You want to be pulling with your hands rather than pushing. And you want to be pressing actively through the tops of your feet. So I'm just gonna do a couple more. Again, just checking in with how my back feels today. Feels pretty good so far. And then the next time I come forward, I'm just gonna hold it in my cobra. So I'm bringing myself into a cobra. If your pubic bone isn't down, you can walk your hands out to the side a little bit. And then from here, I'm just gonna start to turn it into shoulder dips. So dipping over to the right, dipping over to the left. Just doing this a few times. And again, when you're doing this, make sure that you're using your feet a lot. If this feels okay, I can start to take my head along for the ride and gaze backwards as I'm doing my dips, like I'm trying to see my feet behind me. Then bringing it back to the center and lower yourself all the way down towards the ground. So we'll start to get into the shoulders a little bit now as well. So I'm just going to move my microphone off to the side a little bit. So we're going to move through some rotations. I'm taking my forehead on the ground. From this position, I want to lift my arms into an I shape, reaching up as high as I can. I then bring them out to the side into a T shape. My palms are facing down. And then I flip my palms up, take my hands as close together as I can without getting them to touch. And then bend my elbows and hover one just on top of the other. I then move back through this, so arms are straight. Flip the palms down, back into a T. Arms come forward into an I. 2 more times like this, so reaching up, circling all the way backwards into my T. Palms flip up, bringing the hands as close together as I can. Bending one elbow, taking one hand on top of the other. Then reversing, so turning the palms down, back through a T. And then coming back through an I. 1 more time, so arms up as high as you can. Flip the palms down, come through a T shape, flip the palms up, try to take the hands to close together as you can, and then hover one hand on top of the other without touching. And then coming back, so bringing myself back to a T, bringing myself back to an I, and I'm going to pulse up and down here for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and then release myself down. So next you're going to take a block. First of all, we're going to take the block between our hands. You don't want to grip the block. You want to hold it nice and flat and push the palms together. And then here I'm going to lift the block off the floor as high as I can for about 30 seconds. So my head is down, my feet are together, big toes are touching. Again, don't grip the block, but just lift the arms and hold. So we'll go for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm counting fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And release it down. From here again, I'm going to push myself into my cobra. Again, pubic bone down, pull the hands backwards. And then from this position, I'm just going to wave back into a downward facing dog. So from our downward facing dog, we're going to get into the hips a little bit more, and then we'll add some shoulders and quad stretches into this too. So my feet are together, big toes are touching. I lift my right leg up towards the sky, square the hips to begin with, square the shoulders, and then roll open the right hip, keeping the leg straight. From this position, bend your right knee and visualize that you're touching your right big toe to your left shoulder. The right leg then comes out to the side, straighten out the right leg and pulse for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I'm then going to lunge my right leg forward, but I'm taking it into a half Bekasana or half frog shape. I want my right knee to line up with my right hip and my right toes to line up with my right knee. And I'm pointing through my left toes. Then from this position, lower your forearms down towards the ground. So I'm just going to start off with my left leg in this position. So I want to lock out my left knee, and then I'm going to lift my left leg up 10 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Awesome. From this position, I'm then flexing my left foot. Imagine that you're trying to squeeze your heel towards your bum. And from here, I'm going to pulse in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I'm then going to point my toes. From this position, you can either lie fully down and take the left hand onto the left foot. and push the heel in towards the bum. Or if it feels okay, you can take the right hand to the center of your chest, taking it more into a cobra position. And then from this position, take your left hand back. And again, think of pushing the heel in towards your butt. So more of an Ardha Bakasana position, lifting your chest up. And again, try to, rather than collapsing down, think of pulling the right hand back towards you. And then we'll lower it down. Let's just release for a second. So from this position, I'm just going to push myself back into a straddle and then just pulse my chest down towards the ground. So you can keep the gaze forward and imagine that you're trying to get your sternum to tap the floor for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm then going to re-lunge into my right knee, lower myself all the way down, and this time I'm going to straighten out my right leg. So I want my right leg to be in line with my right hip and my left foot to be in line with my left hip. This time I'm going to come to lie down because I'm going to get into my shoulder a little bit too. So I'm going to bring my head on my hands, and from this position I'm lifting up my left leg and my right arm 10 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Awesome. So again, same as we did on the other side, I'm going to start by flexing my left foot and imagine that you're trying to get your heel to tap your bum. So from here, I'm going to pulse in for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm then pointing my toes. So same as you did last time, you can either stay here, press the hand down onto the foot, or if it feels okay, you can lift yourself up. Try to keep the outer edge of the ankle down, take the right hand to the center, and then take the left hand onto the left foot. And again, pull your heel in towards your bum. Feels so good. Okay, last time, tuck underneath the toes, press yourself backwards into your straddle position. This time, if your forearms can come down onto the ground, you can just let yourself hang, or you can also just walk your hands backwards and visualize that you're pulling yourself through your legs. We're then going to come back into this shape one more time. So again, I'm coming forward. I'm in that half frog position. So this time we're going to turn it into more of an active back bend, so we're not using the hands. So you can either stay on your forearms, bend your left knee, and think of sliding your hands backwards, taking your foot towards your head, or you can bring yourself up onto your hands. Again, use the action of pulling the hands back towards the hips and start drawing your foot towards your head. If this feels okay, you can play around with leg variations. So you could also do this with the right leg straight. And if you want to actively come into a Kapotasana here, you could also lift that left arm up and eventually you'd reach for the foot and the foot would come towards the head. Nice. We're then going to push back through a straddle. And then from this position, just step it back into a downward facing dog. So let's do all of that on the other side. So I'm taking my feet together, big toes touch. I'm then lifting my left leg up towards the sky, squaring my hips, squaring my shoulders. Left hip rolls open, left leg stays straight. Bend your left leg and think of touching your toes towards your right shoulder. Then from this position, the knee comes out to the side, the left leg straightens, and I'm pulsing for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm then bringing myself into that half frog, half cobra position. So again, just check out your alignment. My left knee lines up with my left hip and my left foot lines up with my left knee. And I'm just checking my right foot as well, that it's not coming out to the side, because that happens. Okay, so again, I'm bringing myself onto my forearms and I'm just going to lift the right leg up this time 10 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I'm then going to flex the foot. Imagine that I'm touching my heel towards my right buttock and I'm going to pulse it here for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then pointing the toes, still continue to squeeze in. And you can either come to lie down
completely on your stomach and press the heel in.
Or if this feels okay, this time my left hand would come to the center of my face. Again, I'm pulling the hand backwards, I'm not pushing and dumping down. And then I'd take my right hand onto my right foot and start to press the right heel in towards my bum, stretching out the quad. From this position, I'm then going to tuck underneath the toes and press myself back into a straddle. We'll get into the shoulders slightly differently here. So take the left hand underneath your face, take the right arm up, and we're just going to pulse backwards for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then take the right hand down. Do the left hand, so left arm lifts up, keep the sacrum level for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Again, I'm walking myself forward, coming into this half frog position, half cobra, knee lines up with the hip, and then I'm coming to lower down. So this time I want to straighten out my left leg, so I'm just going to turn around, be easier to show you guys. So my left leg's going to come in line with my right hip. And again, just check your lines. The right foot should be directly behind the right hip as well. So this time I'm taking my shoulders along for the ride. So I'm going to bring my forehead on my hands, and this time I'm lifting up my left arm and my right leg. So let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then bringing myself back. So again, similar thing. Bending the right leg, flexing the foot. Let's pulse it in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then point the toes, squeeze the toes towards the butt, holding it here a moment. And again, from here, you can either stay on your stomach, bend the right knee and push it in, or you can walk yourself back into that cobra position. Just try to make sure the outer edge of the ankle on the left foot's active, so you're not collapsing and sickling your ankle like that. And again, from here, left hand's in the center of my face this time. My right hand comes to my right foot, and I'm pushing my heel in towards me. And release. So then we take it back to our straddle. So I'm just bringing myself back through my straddle. This time I'm going to interlace my hands behind my back and just pulse down for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So last thing on this side. Again, I'm walking myself forward, coming into my half frog, half cobra. So this time, either stay on your forearms, bend your right knee, and think of sliding your hands back foot towards the head. Or you can bring yourself into a cobra position and do this. So again, energetically pull your hands backwards rather than pushing. If this feels okay, you can then straighten out the left leg, grounding down through the outer edge of the ankle. And if you want to try and come into an active Kapotasana, you'd lift one arm up. Try not to let the armpit go out to the side. So I'd just be bending the elbow, reaching for the foot. And then if I've got the foot comes towards my head. Release it out. Press yourself back into a straddle. And then we'll take it back into a downward facing dog shape. You can't go on there, darling, no. So for the next part of class, you're going to need a couple of blocks and a pair of socks to slide around with. So I'm going to come into a lunging position with my right leg forward. And I want my right foot to be directly underneath my right knee. I'm taking 2 blocks, I'm walking my hands backwards, and I want my hands roughly underneath my shoulders. From this position, I'm going to just start to turn my right foot out and in. And when I turn my right foot out, I want to make sure that my right knee and my right hip are going with it, so I'm not sickling my ankle. Each time my right foot turns out, I'm thinking of sending my left hip a little bit closer to the ground. And when the right foot comes in, I kind of want to keep that position. We're then going to keep the right foot turned out and take the hands down to the inside of the right foot. Either staying here or you can bring it down onto your forearms. I'm going to keep the toes pointed at first, lift up and pulse up and down for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. I'm then going to flex the left foot, tuck the toes under, lift and again pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. I'm then coming back to the center, walking my right foot in, just readjusting a second. And then from here, I want to take my left hand, make an L shape with my thumb and my index finger, and I'm wrapping my left butt cheek in. I'm keeping my right hand on my right thigh and I'm pushing my right thigh away from me. So here I'm trying to internally rotate that back leg, or just think squeeze the thighs together. Then I'm going to place my left hand on top of my right hand. For the next exercise, you can either tuck underneath the toes, or if you can, stay on the top of the foot like me. And then going to lift myself up from this position. I then bend the knee and lift up. 1, 2, 3, 4, I'll just do 8, 5, 6, 7 and 8. I'm then going to hold at the top, micro pulses for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Release down. If you need to just stretch out that right leg a second, just stretch it out and take a moment. Awesome. I'm then going to bring myself back. So this time I'm going to come into a half splits position. So I'm going to flex my right foot. I want my left knee to stay over the left hip. And then I'm going to walk my arms forward and visualize that I'm trying to get my nose to touch my right big toe in this position. I'm flexing my right foot a lot, energetically sliding the right heel back towards my right buttock, and I'm thinking nose towards the toes in this position. I'm really driving that right heel down. If this feels okay and you want to take it up a notch, you can take your right foot onto a block. And again, I'm driving my right heel down and thinking of getting my nose to touch my right big toe. Nice, bringing it back up. If the right foot's on a block, release it. I'm just using my blocks to support me. Then from here again, back to rotations. So I'm thinking of internally rotating, tapping my right big toe down, and then externally rotating, tapping my little toe down. And I'm just going to do this a few times. And in particular, focus on the movement of turning the foot out and trying to get your little toe to touch the floor. Nice. And then bring yourself back. I'm then going to rebend into my right knee. Just taking my blocks off to the side for a moment. And then from here, I'm going to take my left hand down. So I want to try and take my left hand as far back as I can. And when I come up in this movement, I don't want to lift my hips. I'm just working from the shoulders. So I want to keep my hips pushed down towards the ground. I'm walking my left hand back as far as I can. My right arm then comes forward, and then from this position, I'm lifting my right arm up, out to the side, circling it backwards, seeing if I can see my right foot behind me, and then bringing it back to the center. So I'm just going to do 5 of these big sweeping rotations, bringing it back to the center. And when you do this, I really want you to focus on the movement of keeping your hips sinking down towards the ground. So don't lift the hips up to compensate, as the body will always take the least path of resistance. That might be 4, it could be 5. I'm just going to do 1 more.
This time I'm going to take my right arm back and I'm going to pulse down for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then bring myself back. Last little thing here. From this position, I'm either staying on my left hand or I'm coming down onto my left forearm. My right hand comes to my lower back. I'm then bending my left knee, trying to squeeze the heel towards my bum, reaching for the foot, pressing the heel in towards the bum, and then rotating my chest open towards the sky. And then bringing it back. So this won't be the only splits that we do in class, so if you're not feeling 100% yet, you don't have to come into it full force straight away. But from here, I'm going to start off in a half split. I can check my alignment, so if I bend my back knee, my back foot should be facing towards the same side shoulder, so my left foot would be facing towards my left shoulder. I can then relax a little bit. So we're not gonna really force it into our fullest split in this position. Again, I'm bending my left knee, checking it's facing towards my shoulder and relaxing down a little bit. So I'm just gonna do this one more time. So I'm not in my full splits in this, as I kind of wanna make sure my alignment's even. I'm then holding it in this position, or you can try and experiment with lifting one arm, lifting this other arm, and seeing if you can hold it in that position here, which is really challenging. Then if you want to take it all the way down into your splits, you can take it all the way down into the splits, maybe even lifting the back knee up, pulsing down for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, just holding it here for a moment. Again, we're going to come back to our splits, so you can just do a couple of checks. Make sure the back ankle isn't collapsed. You can use your left thumb and your fingers to wrap that left thigh down. Holding it here for a moment. And then let's just slide ourselves out of it. Shake out the legs. Whew, and then we'll bring it onto the other side.
So now we're going to do all of this on the other side. So bringing your left leg forward this time. So again, we're using 2 blocks, stacking them roughly underneath the hips, left knee over the left ankle. And again, just start to turn your left foot in and out in this position. And again, each time your left foot turns out, think of sending your right hip a little bit closer to the ground. Feels fun. Okay. I'm then going to leave my left foot turned out, take my hands down to the inside of my left foot, and if this is okay, take my forearms down. So again, to begin with, I'm keeping my back toes tucked under if it's possible, lifting underneath and pulsing up and down for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I'd then be flexing my foot, pressing into my heel so the right knee lifts off the ground, and again pulsing for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bringing it back. So again, grab your blocks again. I'm bringing myself back into that lunge. And then from here, relaxing the toes, taking my right hand around my right buttock, so creating an L shape, and I'm internally rotating that back leg. My left hand's pushing my body away from it. So I'm trying to keep my ribs in as much as I can. I know I'm terrible at that. And then I'm taking my right hand over my left leg. Then from this position, if you can, stay on the top of the foot, pressing up, and we're going to lift up and down for 1. We'll just do 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'm then going to micro pulse for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and lower myself all the way back down. So from here, I'm coming into a half split position. So my right hip stacked over my right ankle. Again, I'm back into those rotations, so I'm thinking big toe down.
And then externally rotate pinky toe down. And in particular again, when you're doing this, you want to focus a little bit more on that little toe getting down towards the ground. So tapping down. Nice. Beak, beak, beak. Okay, awesome. And then bring it back up. I'm then coming back into my lunge. So this time I'm going to try and walk my right hand as far back as I can and back into those rotations. So my right hand's as close to the right hip, or maybe even a little bit further back towards the thigh. I want to make sure when I'm doing this that I'm not coming up and out of the pose when I'm working on this rotation. My left arm's coming forward, then from here I'm circling up and back as far back as I can. I'm doing about 5 of these. Really focusing on the movement of leaning back, as this will come into our ankle grabs later on. And then on the last one, I'm just going to pulse the arm up and down for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then bringing it back up, last little thing here. Either stay on the right hand or come onto the right forearm. And then from this position, I'm bending my back leg, reaching for my foot and pressing the heel in towards my bum. And then rotating my chest. You can even take the foot into the elbow crease and the hand onto the lower back. And I'm rotating my chest open towards the sky. And bringing it back. So walking myself back up, again, we're going to come into our first splits on this side, but to begin with, we're just thinking of our alignment. Okay, what I'm doing with my feet, when I personally want to balance more and activate my hamstrings more, I find that flexing my toes helps with this. But then if you want a cleaner line, pointing your nose toes assist with this too. But as I'm just kind of working more actively to begin with, I'm going to keep it flexed. Again, alignment check up. I'm bending my right knee and I want my right heel to be facing towards my right buttock and not veering out to the side. So I'm always looking behind me. And then if I can go a little bit lower, going a little bit lower. And again, just checking that my toes are facing towards the shoulder. Again, if this feels okay, I try to take one arm up, the other arm up, and a little bit of a dance as I try and balance. Choop, choop, choop. Falling over. Yay. And then if you want to take it into your full split, you can take it into your full split. So again, maybe you tuck the back toes under, lift the back knee and pulse up and down for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Bringing it down, so again, you can take the right thumb around the right butt cheek and internally rotate that back leg, drawing it in. Just holding it here for a moment. And then we'll bring ourselves back out of it. And we're going to come back into some rotations from here. So exploring a little bit swim throughs.
So for the next part of class, you're going to need a pair of socks. Hopefully a slippy floor you can slide on, but if you've got carpet, don't worry about it. You can use carpet, it's just a little bit harder. So we're going back to these rotations here. So rotating over to the right, rotating over to the left. This time, if it feels okay though, you'd be trying to rotate all the way into a split, bring yourself back to the center, and then rotate into a split on the other side. So to begin with, it's easier to use your hands to do this. So just going from side to side, I'm just going to do about 3 on each side like this to begin with. And again, trying to keep the back of the top foot down if you can. Just do one more to this side. Then if it feels okay doing it with your hands, you can then start to try and do it without your hands. So again, I'd be trying to rotate open into my splits and rotate open into my splits. So again, I'm just going to do this about 3 times. Don't worry so much at the moment about them being perfect, but we're just playing with that rotation. I'm walking closer and closer towards the camera as I'm doing this. Nice. And then bring yourself back through the center. So honestly, guys, I'm sharing with you a pose that
that good at myself and one that I'm working at, but just to add it in there. This next movement's called a swim through. So I'm going to go from a straddle. I'm then going to internally rotate my thighs, taking it more into a box splits position. And then from here, I'm going to try and slide my legs back into a cobra. So you want to try and keep your hips as low to the ground as you're doing this. So I'm taking my hands forward. I'm then trying to keep my hips down low. And then I'd slide my legs all the way back into a cobra. So I'll do this from another angle. And again, box splits is one that I'm definitely training, and I'm definitely working on. My hips have always been my tightest area. So again, I'm trying to lean forward, keep my hips as low down to the ground as I can. And then from this position, slide back. So you can just play with it like this, or you can start to kind of link some of the movements we've done together and turn it into a little sequence. So I'll just show you an example. So again, I'm working through my rotation, trying to keep my chest down nice and low. Sliding back from this position, I could open back up into that half cobra, half frog. I could then start to take the leg out straight and lift up, taking it more into a kapotasana position. And then I could start playing with those rotations. So rotating into the splits from one direction, coming back into a straddle, and rotating through the other direction. Again, coming back to the center, and then I'd be back in this position. I'll just do one more for you, just to show you how much joy these bring into my life. So again, chest down low, sweep back, and I'm back in my cobra. So have a play with that, maybe pause it, do it a few times, see what feels good for you. And then when you're ready, we're going to head over to the wall. So for the next set of exercises, we're going to be using a wall. So you're going to need a couple of blocks, a bit of wall space. I'm just using this ledge here. And if you've got sensitive knees, you might want a blanket to put underneath them. So I'm going to start with my right leg forward and my left leg backwards. So I'm coming into a lunge. We're going to hold each of these exercises for about 30 seconds. So I'm just coming to sit backwards towards my left heel. And I want to keep my right knee directly over my right ankle. My ribs are in, so here I'm stretching more into my quad. I want my back to be straight, and I should feel it through the front of my leg. So just finding this chilling position here. We'll hold this for about another 15 seconds. But if you want to hold these poses for longer, you can hold them for a little bit longer. So again, just pause the video, hold them, like get into them a little bit deeper. I'm just doing this for about another 5 seconds. Can feel my left quad definitely working. And then I'm going to keep my heel towards my bum, but I'm going to straighten out my front leg, keeping my toes in line with my hip. And again, I'm just going to chill out here, like I'm just relaxing in the sun, which I kind of am. Like it feels pretty warm and pretty nice in here. So I'm just sitting back towards this heel and holding it. Just closing my eyes, taking my focus back to my breathing, making sure still nice and controlled, and just noticing any places where the breath feels stuck in the body and just trying to breathe into them. Nice. I'm then going to come more into a lunge. So stacking the right knee on top of the right ankle. And here I'm starting to I'm starting to stretch out my left hip flexor, so I'm going into hip extension on that left hip. To begin with, I'm just holding it like this for about 30 seconds. Maybe you can walk your arms up and just rest them on the knee, but you should feel a stretch going through the front of the left hip. So about 15 more seconds here. You can always check in with your back foot, making sure it's facing that same side shoulder. Okay, then for the next 30 seconds, I'm going to take my arms up and making a box with my elbows, and I'm trying to shut my foot in that box. So you don't want the elbows to come out wide when you're doing this. You want the armpits to wrap in. I'm reaching backwards And if I can reach that left foot, I'm trying to frame the foot with my elbows and hold it in, squeezing the elbows in towards one another. It's a little bit difficult to talk here, but again, I'm just holding this about 30 seconds. And then bringing myself back up. So final thing that we're going to do here is we're going to turn it more into a split shape. So again, with the back knee bent and in alignment, so with the left foot facing the left shoulder, you might not get all the way down, doesn't particularly matter, but I just want you to slide a little bit and then just check that your toes are still facing your shoulder. So sliding a little bit, check. Maybe walking the blocks down onto a medium height. Again, always checking back in, seeing what's going on, maybe a low height in your body. And it might not be your deepest splits, but again, I just want you to think more of trying to square the hips off when you're doing this. Just about 10 more seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Then slowly slide yourself out of it, and we'll do all of that on the other side. So now I'm going to go right shin against the wall, left leg forward. I'm always happy when I get onto this side, just because for me, it's a little bit easier. So I always kind of think, get out of the way what you don't like first. So I'm coming up, sitting backwards towards that right heel. And I should feel a stretch going through the right side of my quad. Again, just closing my eyes, trying to find a sense of relaxation, a sense of ease in the unease. And it's one of the kind of reasons I really like the physical practices. It gets you to dance with your physical edge. And I always find when you find that place where something's challenging you, but it's still within your realms of possibility, it just kind of takes you out your head and just into this zone where you're really present. And it's one of the reasons I love practicing so much. So straightening out your left leg, again, sitting back towards the heel and it's one of the reasons I like to mix my movement up, as I kind of feel like if you repeat the same things, yes, there is some benefit in that, and I do repeat a lot of drills, but kind of when I play with new things that challenge me, like box splits, which really challenges me, that are out of my comfort zone, again, it's getting me to dance with my edge, and it's helping me to switch off and just find that state of total presence, the flow state. So now I'm going to bend my left leg. So I'm stretching out the front of my right hip this time. So I'm going into hip extension. And again, you may want to use the blocks, or you may be able to take your hands up onto the left thigh and balance it here. Just noticing the difference between both sides. I know for me, this side always feels a lot more easy, which is why I should always practice on my weaker side more. So again, we're just going to hold this for about another 10 seconds. Just breathing into any discomfort. So once you've held your lunge for about 30 seconds, we're then going to take the arms backwards. So again, I'm lifting my arms up, trying to keep my elbows together so my biceps by my ears, I'm not drifting off to the side. And then I'm reaching backwards, seeing if I can frame that right foot. And if I can, I'm drawing my elbows in towards one another. Again, I'm holding this about 30 seconds. About another 10. And again, if you want to hold that for a little bit longer, you can hold it a little bit longer. Final thing I'm doing on this side. So again, I'm sliding out into my splits, but I always want to make sure that back heel is facing towards the same side shoulder. So my right foot is pointing towards my right shoulder. I slide down a little bit, check in a little bit. Slide down a little bit, check in a little bit. If it's okay, I can start to move my blocks down lower. But again, all the time, I want to make sure I'm not compensating by letting my right leg turn out to the side. Again, I'm just gonna hold here for about another 10 seconds. Feels so wonderful. And then release it out, shake it out, and we'll come back to the center of the room. So we're now going to play around with these movements back on our mat, and we'll explore some transitions as well. So have 2 blocks. You also might need your socks again, as they do help with sliding in some of these movements. So I'm going to go right leg forward. From this position, again, blocks underneath my shoulders. Going to bend my left heel, keep my ribs in to begin with, and then just start to pulse my left heel towards my bum. So I'm going for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm then pointing my toes, lifting my chest up, and drawing my foot back towards my head. If this feels okay, you can take the blocks down on a medium height. If this feels okay, maybe a low height. And if this is okay, maybe you don't need the blocks. So maybe you take your hands down to the floor. If your foot's reaching towards your head, you can then play around with taking it towards the back of the head. Maybe using the hand to assist. And you can also play around more with taking it towards the same side shoulder. So I could play with taking my left foot towards the left shoulder in this position. We're then going to bring it back up a little bit. So we'll look at the ankle grab from here. So from here, you can either reach, rotate, so flipping your grip. So if I was doing this, I'd bend my left knee. I'd take my left hand in like I'm holding a plate of food and I'm a waitress. And then bringing my left leg out to the side, reaching for my foot, flipping the grip, taking my elbow up towards the sky and reaching back. And again, you can either stay here or take the foot to the same side shoulder. You can also play around with coming in to your flip grip actively. It is quite hard to balance in a high lunge, so I'll try and show you. If you're doing this, you really want to stay active in that right leg, so visualize you're dragging your right heel back towards you. But I'd take both arms up, bend the elbows, reach backwards, and if I can reach my foot, I'm then taking it back towards the head. Elbows come in, and relaxing, maybe even releasing the arms up. So there's all kinds of different variations you can play with here. We're just going to add the other side in, and then we'll explore a few more transitions. And again, I like to stretch out my legs in between just before I come on to the other side. So I'm now going to go left leg forward, right leg backwards. So same thing, I'm stacking my hands underneath my hips, left knee's over the right ankle. This time I'm flexing my right foot. Visualize that you're trying to touch your right buttock with your heel, and you're going to pulse for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Then pointing the toes. Imagine that you're lifting up and over something that's behind you, and then the foot goes towards the head. If it feels okay, you can come down a level. Again, energetically as I'm doing this, I'm thinking of sliding the left heel backwards and squeezing the thighs together. If this feels okay, I can walk the hands back. And again, my foot would either be going towards my head. You can use the hand to shift it, or you can just work it actively. I could take my foot behind my head. You can also play around stylistically with here. Maybe you lift up the back heel. Maybe you add in an arm, just get creative with it, see what feels good. Or maybe you start taking the foot to that same side shoulder. So here it would be my right shoulder. And again, I could play around with lifting my heel up and lifting the arm up and over. Just stylistically finding fun ways to play around with it. Awesome, and then we'll bring it back to the other side. So again, I'm going to start off with my right leg half straight and my left knee bent. So if you need to use a cushion, you can use a cushion here. So my right leg's going to be straight. Maybe you need the blocks, maybe you don't. And then I'm just squeezing my left heel in towards my bum. So again, you can play around with it here, maybe pulse, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then point. Maybe reach back, take the foot towards the head in this position. Maybe you can tuck it behind your head in this position. I'd have to take my blocks down for this. Then again, from this position, I can start at looking at taking it more into a split, but all the time, I want to make sure that my left foot's facing towards my left shoulder. Again, maybe take it down a little bit, maybe take it all the way down. If this feels okay and you want to flip your grip, you can take that left hand backwards and then start either reaching the foot towards the head, maybe tucking it behind the head, and maybe even taking it towards the same side shoulder. And stylistically, you can play around with it. Maybe if you flipped your grip, you can take the arm in front of your face and take it to the same side shoulder. And again, just playing around with the shapes on what it feels like. We'll then explore this on the other side. So I'm going to go left leg forward this time. So again, my left leg is forward. I'm going to straighten it out. Hands roughly underneath the hips, and I'm bending that right knee. Again, flexing the foot to begin with, hugging it in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then playing around with different variations. I could lean myself up and over, taking the foot towards my head. Maybe you can tuck it behind the head. So again, you can either do it by flipping your grip, or I'm just going to do it actively because it feels better for my shoulder. And you might even want to play around with taking the foot more into the shoulder blades, and kind of helps if you're wearing a good sports bra, and leaning it back there. So again, lots of different options, your choice. You can play around stylistically with it. Just exploring and seeing what feels fun for you. So these are just like different icings on the top of the cake. I'll give you your ingredients, and then you choose how you want to decorate it. So again, last one here. If I was looking at turning it into my splits, again, I'd bend that back knee, make sure it's facing the same side shoulder. If this feels okay, I'd start to take it down. Again, maybe if you want to flip your grip, you flip the grip, either taking it towards the head. Again, you can play around with taking your foot to the back of the head, squeezing it in, or maybe even taking it towards the same side shoulder. And again, I could bring my arm to the other side here to play with it. So taking my right arm across my face and then bringing the right foot to the shoulder, and just play around with the arm variations. See what feels good for you and your body. Always add your own little bit of flavour into it and see what you come up with. So I always do all of my warm-ups, make sure I'm pretty strong and warm before coming into anything, and then it's really just an opportunity to play and see what happens. So we've done a lot of stretching through the hamstrings, so we'll just come into a couple of gentler back bends to finish off with. And again, if you want to play, just pause and play. There's so many possibilities. I always think once you've done all of your warm-ups, so if you do all of the strength drills that we did at the beginning and all of the prep work, then just pause and play and see what's out there and see what's available. It's what I always do. So use it as an opportunity to be creative. These are just some suggestions that you can play with. So I'm going to come to lie down on my back, and I'm just going to take a couple of blocks underneath my sacrum. Just lifting my hips up. Oh, feels really nice just to release. And I'm just going to massage a little bit from side to side. So just trying to find my tight spots and just hold in and give them a little bit of a massage. Then just coming back to the center. From this position, I'm just going to bend my right knee and take it in towards my chest. And you can play around with this. You can either stay here, or if it feels okay, if you want to intensify that stretch,
you'd straighten out the left leg. So here, I'm just stretching out my left hip flexor a little bit, my left psoas. Taking a moment to relax and release at the end of your practice. Then just swapping sides. So releasing, bending the left knee, taking it in towards the chest. So again, I'm drawing my thigh towards the left side of my rib cage. And you can either stay here or you can straighten that right leg out. Just taking a moment, feeling a nice stretch through the right side of the hip. And then bringing it back. You can also just do one more here. So if you wanted to stretch out the tops of the feet again, you could either stay here. I'll take the block up a little bit. So I'm just going to take it up a little notch. And then from here, I'm going to come onto the tops of my feet. So I'm stretching out my ankles. And I'm going to reach my hands towards my feet and can give myself a little bit of a mini foot massage here as well, which feels nice. Just taking a few deep breaths in and a few slow deep breaths out. Then coming back to the center, just pushing your hips up, releasing, and we'll just take a final twist to release. So taking the knees in towards your chest, drop the knees over to the right and gaze over your left shoulder. Just surrendering and letting go. And then coming back to the center and just dropping the knees over to the left and gazing over the right shoulder. Just finding a sense of release. Or then come back to the center, make yourself into a tiny little ball, so teeny tiny. Breathe out through your mouth and just let yourself totally relax and soften. So taking the left hand onto your heart and the right hand onto your navel. Just closing your eyes. And as you breathe in, just visualize you're breathing into your left hand in. You're just collecting anything in that does not serve you. So anything that you're worried about, anything that you can't control, collecting it up. And then as you breathe out, just visualize that through your right hand, so through your navel, you're letting go of all of these things that do not serve you. So a lot of the times we worry about things that haven't actually happened yet and that might never actually happen. And it can waste so much time. It can really stop you being present and enjoying the moment, which is all we really have. Like, I always remember my grandma said to me when I was a kid, today is the tomorrow we worried about yesterday and all is well. So just making a commitment and setting an intention to just try and practice this. To just take each day as it comes, each practice as it comes. And whatever's going to happen, just let it happen. Then when you're ready, just take a deep breath in. And out. We'll then start to wiggle the fingers and the toes a little bit. Drawing the feet together and stretching the arms up and over the head. Taking a good morning or good evening stretch wherever you are. We'll then bend the knees, taking them in towards the body, big yawn, giving yourself a gentle hug, and then roll over to one side of your mat. When you're ready, coming up to a seated position. So taking the hands together in prayer, taking the thumbs towards the forehead, center of intuition, keeping your thoughts positive, to the lips, center of communication, keeping your words kind, and to your heart, center of action, keeping your actions full of love. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, lots of love to you, and namaste.